There is something sacred about a vision, especially in its early stages. It's fragile like a seed newly planted in the soil, and it needs time to take root before it's exposed to the world. When you have a dream, a goal, or an idea that's burning inside of you, that initial fire is yours alone to tend. It's the beginning of something that could transform your entire life, but only if you nurture it carefully and allow it the space to grow. Protecting your vision with silence isn't about hiding or being secretive for the sake of mystery. It's about safeguarding the purity of your intentions, making sure that what you're building remains untouched by outside forces. When you share your plans too soon, you open the door to opinions, critiques, and doubts that can cloud your judgment. Other people don't see what you see. They don't feel what you feel. Your vision is personal, it's unique to you, and no one else can fully understand its depth or meaning. But when you let others in too quickly, their voices can become louder than your own. You start to question whether your ideas are valid, whether your path is the right one, and before you know it, their doubts have seeped into your mind, influencing decisions that should have been made by you alone. That's the danger of sharing prematurely. It allows your vision to be shaped by external forces rather than your own inner wisdom. You have to remember that your dream is delicate, especially in its infancy. It needs protection from the outside world, where people will want to impose their limitations onto you, whether intentionally or not. Silence gives you time. It gives you space to explore your vision, to refine it, to let it grow stronger within you without interruption. It allows you to move at your own pace, to develop your ideas fully before anyone has the chance to question them. Think about it this way: when a builder lays the foundation for a new structure, it's done quietly. There are no grand announcements, no crowds gathered to watch each brick being placed. The foundation is built in private because it's the most important part of the process, and it needs to be strong, solid, and secure before anything else can happen. The same is true for your vision. You're laying the foundation for something significant, and that foundation needs to be firm before it's exposed to the world. Silence is a form of self-preservation. It's not about keeping secrets or being closed off. It's about giving your dream the protection it needs to flourish. There's a certain energy that comes with having a goal, a dream, or an idea that ignites a fire within you. That energy is raw, it's powerful, and it's what drives you forward, keeping you focused on what you need to do to bring your vision to life. But the moment you start talking too much about what you're planning to do, something subtle begins to happen. Every time you share your plans with someone, you release a bit of that energy, a bit of that focus, and it starts to dissipate. The excitement you once had, the clarity of purpose, begins to waver as your words flow out. It feels good in the moment to talk about what you're working on, to share your dreams and ambitions with those around you. But what we often don't realize is that each conversation takes a piece of your focus away from the task at hand. The more you talk, the less energy you have to put into actually doing the work. Words are powerful, and they can give the illusion of progress. You feel accomplished because you've told someone about your plans, but the reality is that no amount of talking can replace the actual work that needs to be done. When you spend too much time discussing your goals, you risk falling into the trap of thinking you've moved closer to achieving them, when in reality, all you've done is talk. Every word spoken about your plans becomes a distraction, pulling you further away from the actual process of making those plans a reality. It's easy to get caught up in conversations about what you intend to do. You might feel the need to explain your vision to others, to get their validation, or even to motivate yourself by sharing it out loud. But the truth is, the more time you spend explaining, the less time you have to focus on execution. And focus is everything when it comes to success. Focus is what keeps you grounded, what keeps you moving forward in the right direction, without getting sidetracked by unnecessary details or opinions. When you stay quiet, you conserve that energy. You keep it all to yourself, allowing it to fuel your actions rather than dissipating through idle conversation. Focus requires discipline. It requires the ability to stay in your lane, to keep your eyes on the prize, and to avoid the temptation of constantly explaining yourself to others. The more you talk, the more you open yourself up to distractions, whether it's in the form of questions, advice, or even criticism. All of these things pull you away from the core of what you need to be doing, which is working. Doing the work, day in and day out, without the need to announce it to the world, is what will ultimately lead to success. Talking dilutes that effort, spreading it thin across conversations that won't get you any closer to your goal. When you have a dream, a vision, or a goal that sets your soul on fire, it can feel natural to want to share it with others. After all, part of being human is the desire to connect, to express ourselves, and to seek validation from those around us. But there's something you have to understand about people most of the time. Their responses to your dreams have less to do with your potential and more to do with their own fears. When you share your aspirations, you're not just sharing an idea, you're also inviting others into your mindset, into your hopes and ambitions. But here's where it gets tricky the moment people hear your dream. They start to filter it through the lens of their own experiences, their own doubts, their own insecurities. Their responses are colored by what they've been through, what they believe is possible for them, and what they have or haven't achieved in their own lives. And without even realizing it, they begin projecting those limitations onto you. You might tell someone that you want to start a business, that you have a vision for something bigger than what you're doing right now. Instead of offering encouragement, they might warn you about how hard it's going to be, how risky it is, how most businesses fail. They're not intentionally trying to discourage you, but their response comes from a place of fear that they've internalized from their own experiences, fear of what they believe is impossible for themselves. People often speak from the limits of their own perspective. If they've never dared to chase their own dreams, they can't fathom the courage it takes for you to chase yours. If they've been burned by failure, they might assume that your path will end in the same way. It's not that they don't want you to succeed, it's that they don't believe it's possible because they've never seen it happen for them. So instead of uplifting you, they unintentionally drag you down with their doubts. These projections can be subtle too. Sometimes it's not outright negativity, but rather a cautious tone, a questioning look, or a list of reasons why you should reconsider. They might suggest you be realistic, or they might remind you of all the challenges you'll face, as if you haven't already thought about them yourself. This is why protecting your vision is so important. Other people's fears have a way of creeping into your subconscious, planting seeds of doubt that you didn't have before. You start to wonder if maybe they're right, if maybe your dream is too big, too ambitious, too risky. Their fear begins to cloud your judgment, and suddenly the clear path you saw ahead of you is full of obstacles that weren't there before. But those obstacles aren't real. They're a reflection of someone else's mindset, not yours. When you allow too many voices into your head, especially voices that come from a place of fear, you risk losing sight of your own belief in what's possible. You begin to internalize their limitations, and before you know it, you're second-guessing your decisions, hesitating when you once moved with certainty. The fears of others can be contagious if you're not careful. They can weaken your resolve, making you question whether you're capable of achieving what you set out to do. That's why silence is so powerful. By keeping your dreams close, by holding them within yourself, you protect them from being tainted by the doubts and fears of others. You give yourself the space to trust your own instincts, to move forward without the weight of someone else's limitations dragging you down. You have to remember that most people don't see the world the way you do. They haven't walked your path, they don't share your vision, and they haven't experienced the same inner drive that pushes you forward. Their fears are not your fears. Their doubts are not your doubts. But if you let them speak too loudly, if you allow their fears to influence your journey, you'll find yourself walking a path that's no longer your own. their projections will become a barrier between you and the life you're trying to create. You must protect yourself from that. And the best way to do so is to limit how much you share. When you hold your dreams close, when you refuse to let others project their fears onto you, you remain in control of your destiny. You keep your vision pure, untarnished by the limitations of others, and you give yourself the freedom to pursue your dreams with clarity, focus, and unshakable belief. People will always have opinions, they will always have their own fears, but you don't have to carry those with you on your journey. There's an undeniable truth in the fact that words are easy. They flow effortlessly from our mouths, shaping our intentions, desires, and aspirations. We often feel compelled to express ourselves, to let the world know what we're planning, what we're dreaming, what we're striving to achieve. And while speaking those words may give us a momentary sense of satisfaction, the reality is that words alone hold little weight in the grand scheme of things. People may listen to what you say, they may nod in agreement, they may even offer encouragement or advice, but at the end of the day, it's not the words you speak that will define your success or your journey. It's the actions you take, the steps you put into motion, the work you do when no one is watching. Talking about what you intend to do can create the illusion of progress, but true progress is measured by the tangible steps you take toward your goal. You can tell the world about your plans, about how hard you're working, about how dedicated you are, but unless those words are backed by consistent, purposeful action, they remain just that, words. Action is what makes the difference between a dream that stays in your mind and a reality that manifests in the world. When you act, when you move, when you execute, that's when people begin to notice. Not because you've told them what you're doing, but because they can see it, they can feel it, they can witness the results of your labor. Action speaks louder than words because it leaves an undeniable impact. Words can be forgotten, promises can be broken, but action leaves a trail. It leaves evidence of the work you've put in, the hours you've dedicated, the sacrifices you've made. When you act, you create something real, something that can be seen, touched, and experienced. You shift from the realm of ideas and concepts into the realm of reality, where what you do matters far more than what you say you're going to do. And the beauty of action is that it doesn't require an audience. You don't need to announce every step you take. You don't need to tell people about the late nights, the early mornings, the countless hours of effort. Action doesn't demand recognition, it speaks for itself. Think about the people you admire, the ones who have achieved great things in their lives. Chances are, it's not their words that stand out to you, it's what they've done. It's the impact they've made, the changes they've created, the accomplishments they've achieved through years of dedication, hard work, and relentless action. Their success wasn't built on words alone, it was built on a foundation of continuous effort, of showing up every day and doing the work, regardless of whether anyone was watching or applauding. That's the essence of true success. It's not about how much you talk, it's about how much you do. When you focus on action, when you prioritize execution over discussion, you become unstoppable. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself, to justify your path, or to seek validation from others. You let your results speak for themselves, knowing that real progress doesn't require a constant stream of words to prove its worth. The results of your actions will always be more powerful, more convincing, and more enduring than any speech, any declaration, or any promise you could ever make. Action is what turns potential into reality. It's what takes an idea and transforms it into something tangible, something that can be measured, something that can stand the test of time. And when you commit to action, when you make the decision to let your work speak louder than your words, you free yourself from the need for external validation. You no longer rely on the approval or recognition of others because you know that your success will be evident in the outcomes you achieve. Words are fleeting, they may inspire for a moment, but without action to back them up, they quickly lose their power. People may be impressed by what you say in the short term, but it's what you do that will leave a lasting impression. It's your actions that will define your legacy, not the promises you make, but the results you deliver. And the beauty of action is that it builds momentum. Each step you take creates a ripple effect, pushing you closer to your goal, propelling you forward with each effort you make. As you continue to act, you build a track record of success, a history of accomplishment that speaks volumes about who you are and what you're capable of. And with each action, you gain more confidence, more clarity, and more conviction in your ability to achieve what you've set out to do. You realize that you don't need to talk about your dreams, you just need to live them, to bring them to life through the work you do every single day. The world is full of talkers, full of people who are eager to share their plans, their ideas, their ambitions, but the ones who truly stand out, the ones who make a lasting impact, are the doers. They're the ones who put in the work, who take the necessary steps, who move forward with determination and persistence, regardless of whether anyone is watching or applauding. And in the end, it's their actions that speak the loudest, that resonate the deepest, that leave an undeniable mark on the world. Action speaks louder than words because it's real, it's tangible, and it's undeniable. When you act, you don't need to explain yourself, you don't need to justify your path, you simply let your results do the talking for you. And in a world full of noise, full of endless chatter and empty promises, it's your actions that will set you apart. It's your actions that will build the life you want, the success you desire, and the legacy you'll leave behind. One of the most powerful realizations you can have in life is understanding that you, and only you, are in control of the narrative of your own story. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that others get to decide who you are, what you're capable of, and what your life will amount to. From a young age, we are conditioned to seek validation, approval, and permission from the world around us, from family, from friends, from society. But the truth is, no one knows your journey better than you do. No one else can define what your path looks like, what your dreams should be, or how you will go about achieving them. You have the power to shape your own narrative, to write your own story, to decide for yourself what your life will become, and this power lies in your hands whether you realize it or not. People will always have opinions about you. They'll have assumptions, judgments, and expectations. They'll try to fit you into a mold based on what they think they know about you, based on what they've seen or heard. But what they don't realize is that they're only seeing a fraction of the picture. They're only seeing the parts of you that you allow them to see. They're only hearing the story that you choose to tell, or the one that others tell on your behalf. And here's the thing, just because someone has an opinion about you doesn't mean it's true. Just because someone has a perspective on your life doesn't mean it defines who you are. You are not obligated to live according to the narrative that others create for you. The most liberating thing you can do is take ownership of your own narrative, to recognize that the power to shape your story rests entirely within you. It's not about what other people think. It's not about the labels they put on you, the boxes they try to fit you into, or the limitations they project onto your potential. It's about the story you tell yourself and the actions you take to make that story a reality. When you control the narrative, you take back your power. You stop letting the opinions of others dictate your choices, and instead you start making decisions based on your own truth, your own vision, and your own goals. Think about it for a moment. How often do you allow others to influence your perception of yourself? How many times have you hesitated to pursue something because you were worried about what others might think, what they might say, or how they might judge you? We live in a world where external validation often feels like the ultimate measure of success. We look for approval in the eyes of others before we give ourselves permission to move forward. But the reality is those external voices don't hold the same weight as your own. They don't know the full story and they don't have the final say. Only you do. When you decide to control your narrative, you no longer live in reaction to the world around you. You stop feeling the need to explain yourself to everyone, to justify your choices, or to seek approval for every decision you make. Instead, you move with intention, guided by your own inner voice. You realize that the only opinion that truly matters is the one you hold about yourself. And that opinion is shaped by the actions you take, the way you choose to show up in the world, and the story you choose to tell. Controlling the narrative isn't about creating a false image or pretending to be something you're not. It's about living in alignment with your authentic self, with your deepest truth, and allowing that truth to guide your actions. It's about being intentional with the story you share, not just with others, but with yourself, because the story you tell yourself is the one that will shape your reality. If you tell yourself that you're not good enough, that you're not capable, that you don't deserve success, then that becomes the lens through which you see the world. But if you tell yourself that you are capable, that you are deserving, that you are in control of your own destiny, then that becomes the foundation upon which you build your life. You have the power to rewrite the narrative at any moment. You are not defined by your past, by your mistakes, or by the limitations others have placed on you. You are defined by the choices you make today and the story you choose to live moving forward. Every day is an opportunity to take control of that narrative, to write a new chapter, to reshape the way you see yourself and the way the world sees you. You get to decide how you show up, how you respond to challenges, how you rise after a fall. And the most important part is you don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't need to announce every change, every shift, every new chapter. You simply live it. You embody it through your actions, through your energy, through your presence. There will always be people who try to write your story for you. People who think they know what's best for you, people who project their own fears, doubts, and insecurities onto you. But when you control the narrative, you recognize that their story isn't yours to live. Their limitations aren't yours to carry. You create space between their opinions and your truth, and you move forward with clarity and purpose. You understand that the story you're writing is far greater than any single moment, any single opinion, or any single setback. It's a story of resilience, of growth, of becoming the person you were always meant to be. And as you take control of that narrative, you realize that you don't need to shout it from the rooftops. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth, your potential, or your purpose. Your story will speak for itself through the way you live, through the impact you make, and through the legacy you leave behind. It's in the quiet moments, the daily actions, the decisions you make when no one is watching that your true narrative is written. And that narrative is yours to craft, yours to own, and yours to live fully, unapologetically, and authentically. So choose to control your narrative. Choose to write a story that reflects your deepest truth, that honors your journey, and that empowers you to become the fullest expression of who you are. Because at the end of the day, the only person who gets to decide the story of your life is you. We live in a world where judgments are made in the blink of an eye, often without considering the full picture, without understanding the complexity behind a situation, a person, or a decision. It's so easy to form conclusions based on what's immediately visible, on the surface level facts, or on a brief encounter. Our minds, in an effort to make sense of the world, are quick to categorize, to label, to decide who someone is or what a situation means. But the problem with these premature judgments is that they're almost always incomplete. They're built on fragments of truth, bits of information, snapshots of reality that don't fully capture the depth or the nuances that lie beneath. And when we make judgments too quickly, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to see things as they really are, to give people and situations the chance to reveal their true nature. Premature judgments can be dangerous because they create barriers between us and the truth. They cause us to see the world through a narrow lens, limiting our understanding and often leading us to misunderstand or misinterpret what's really going on. When you judge too soon, you close yourself off to possibilities, to perspectives, to insights that could change everything if you were just willing to wait, to listen, to observe, and to allow things to unfold naturally. Judging prematurely is like reading the first chapter of a book and assuming you know the entire story. It's making a decision based on the opening scene without waiting to see the full plot develop. And when we do that, we not only shortchange others, but we shortchange ourselves. We miss out on the richness of experiences, the lessons that could be learned, the growth that could occur if we were just patient enough to let things play out. People are complex. Situations are layered, and the truth is, what you see on the surface is rarely the whole story. Everyone is carrying something beneath the exterior, a history, a struggle, a journey that you can't see with a glance or a quick conversation. When you judge someone too quickly, you're essentially telling yourself that you already know who they are, what they're capable of, and what their life is all about. But how can you possibly know that? Benefit of the doubt. It means recognizing that everyone is on their own journey, and that journey is often invisible to us. You don't know what someone is dealing with, what challenges they're facing, or what battles they're fighting behind the scenes. So instead of jumping to conclusions, instead of assuming you know the whole story, choose to approach others with empathy, with understanding, with a willingness to give them the space to be human. Because just as you don't want to be judged too quickly, neither do they. We all want to be seen for who we truly are, not just for the moments when we're struggling or not at our best. When you avoid premature judgments, you open yourself up to deeper connections with others. You allow room for growth, for second chances, for the possibility that people can change, that situations can evolve, that what you see today is not necessarily what will be true tomorrow. You create space for compassion, for understanding, for the kind of relationships that are built on trust and mutual respect, rather than assumptions and snap decisions. And most importantly, you give yourself the freedom to experience life fully without the limitations that come from closing yourself off too soon. Life is a journey, not a destination. It's a series of unfolding moments, each one revealing something new, something unexpected, something that has the potential to change your perspective if you allow it to. So instead of rushing to judgment, instead of trying to categorize everything into neat little boxes, let yourself stay open. Let yourself remain curious. Let yourself embrace the unknown, trusting that in time the truth will reveal itself, and that truth will be far richer and more nuanced than anything you could have imagined at first glance. There is immense strength in building privately. In a world that often glorifies the public display of success, where every accomplishment is shared and every move is broadcast for validation, there is something deeply empowering about choosing to cultivate your dreams, your goals, and your progress away from the eyes of others. To build privately is to understand that your journey is your own. It is to realize that the foundation of anything truly great is laid in moments of solitude, in the quiet work that no one sees, in the decisions, discipline, and dedication that happen behind closed doors. When you build in private, you remove the distractions, the external noise, and the pressure to constantly seek approval or validation. You create a space where you can focus solely on what matters: your growth, your vision, and the steps you need to take to turn that vision into reality. Building privately doesn't mean hiding or being secretive. It's not about shying away from the world or being fearful of judgment. It's about choosing to protect your energy, your focus, and your dreams from being diluted by outside opinions, criticism, or praise. It's about creating an environment where you can experiment, make mistakes, and learn without the weight of public scrutiny. It's about giving yourself the time and space to evolve, to grow stronger, to refine your skills, and to align your actions with your goals before you're ready to reveal the results to the world. There is power in the process, and when you build in private, you give yourself permission to fully immerse in that process without the pressure to constantly explain or justify what you're doing. Think of it like planting a seed. The seed must be nurtured in the soil, away from the sunlight, away from view. It takes time for the roots to grow deep, for the foundation to become strong enough to support the growth that will eventually break through the surface. But during this time, the seed isn't concerned with being seen. It's not worried about proving its worth or showing off its progress. Its sole focus is on building the strength it needs to grow tall and stand strong when the time comes. And when it does finally emerge, it's not fragile or weak. It's ready, resilient, and capable of withstanding whatever comes its way. That's what building in private allows you to do. It allows you to grow your roots deep, to develop your strength, your clarity, and your confidence so that when you're ready to step into the light, you're unshakable. One of the greatest benefits of building privately is that it allows you to stay connected to your own vision. When you keep your goals to yourself, you don't have to worry about whether others understand or agree with your path. You don't have to deal with their doubts, their fears, or their expectations. You don't have to waste energy explaining yourself or defending your choices. Instead, you can stay focused on what you know to be true for you. You can move with intention, guided by your own inner compass, rather than being swayed by the opinions of others. You build a relationship with your own vision, one that is grounded in trust, commitment, and a deep sense of purpose. And as you do, you become more in tune with your intuition, more confident in your abilities, and more certain of your path. Building in private also gives you the space to be imperfect. It allows you to make mistakes, to try things that don't work, to learn and adapt without the fear of judgment or failure. When you're constantly sharing your progress with others, there's a tendency to want to present only the best parts, the successes, the wins, the highlights. But real growth happens in the challenges, in the moments of doubt, in the times when things don't go as planned. When you build privately, you give yourself the freedom to experience all of it without the need to put on a show. You allow yourself to fail forward, to learn from your mistakes, and to come out stronger on the other side. And by the time you're ready to share your results with the world, you're not just presenting a polished version of success, you're sharing something real, something earned, something that reflects the depth of your journey.